Why do Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, despite their different backgrounds and ideologies, seem so strikingly similar? What is it about their leadership styles, their public personas, and their approaches to governance that creates this uncanny resemblance? It's a question many people ask, often with a mix of curiosity and concern. This perceived similarity has sparked countless debates and analyses, leaving many wondering if it's merely a coincidence or a reflection of deeper, more troubling trends in global politics. These two leaders come from very different places, both geographically and politically. Their nations stand as significant players on the world stage, each with its own unique history, culture, and set of values. One led America, a democracy built on principles of freedom, individual rights, and the rule of law, a system designed to empower its citizens and hold its leaders accountable. The other rules Russia, a very different system marked by a long history of authoritarianism and centralized power, a system where the state often takes precedence over individual liberties. Yet when you look at how they act, at their public pronouncements and their political maneuvers, a pattern emerges. It's like they're reading from the same playbook, employing similar strategies and tactics to achieve their goals. A direct comparison: Trump versus Putin, two powerful leaders facing off on the world stage. Trump was a businessman and TV star, a figure known for his flamboyant personality and his knack for capturing media attention. Loving the spotlight and big rallies, he thrived on the energy of his supporters and the spectacle of mass gatherings. Putin, a former KGB spy, a man trained in the art of espionage and covert operations, built his power quietly, ruling Russia for decades, consolidating his authority and shaping the nation in his image. Their backgrounds couldn't be more different, representing starkly contrasting paths to power and influence. One thrives on glitz, the other on shadows, one reveling in the trappings of wealth and celebrity, the other operating with a calculated sense of secrecy and control. But their methods, goals, and even their words can sound eerily alike, raising questions about the nature of power and the strategies employed by those who seek to wield it. It's like discovering your two least favorite relatives are secretly twins, a disconcerting revelation that challenges your understanding of their individual motivations and actions. This video will explore these similarities, delving into the specific areas where their approaches converge, how they treat international groups, examining their attitudes towards alliances, treaties, and global institutions, their neighbors, scrutinizing their foreign policies and their relationships with bordering nations, their own citizens and critics, analyzing their responses to dissent, protest, and opposition within their own countries. It's not just a few things, it's a whole pattern of behavior, a consistent set of actions and pronouncements that reveal a shared approach to leadership and governance. A pattern that makes many people uneasy, and for good reason, raising concerns about the future of democracy and the rise of authoritarianism. Understanding these parallels matters, because it allows us to better understand the forces shaping our world. It's more than an interesting comparison. It reveals the kind of leadership they offer, exposing the underlying values and principles that guide their actions. It helps us see the challenges democracies face, the vulnerabilities that can be exploited by those who seek to undermine them. And it might help us predict what to expect from leaders who admire this brand of power, providing insights into their potential actions and policies. So, let's dive in and begin to unpack the complexities of this fascinating and troubling comparison. It's going to be quite a ride, a journey through the intricate world of international politics and the minds of two of its most influential figures. And probably not a very fun one, as we confront the uncomfortable truths about the state of global leadership and the challenges facing our world. In the complex world of international relations, some unlikely alliances and shared sentiments emerge. Both Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin share a strong and perhaps surprising dislike for the European Union. This shared sentiment, while not always explicitly stated, has shaped their policies and actions on the global stage. The EU is a club of European countries working together on trade, laws, and security. It represents a unified front, a collective of nations striving for common goals and shared prosperity. Trump and Putin are definitely not fans of this cooperative spirit. Their actions and rhetoric often suggest a preference for bilateral deals and individual power plays, rather than multilateral agreements and collective action. Trump cheered for Brexit, seeing it as a victory against the forces of globalism and a validation of his own nationalist agenda. He slammed trade deals with Europe, initiating trade wars and imposing tariffs that strained relationships with key European allies, and complained about NATO spending, questioning the value of the transatlantic alliance and demanding that European members increase their financial contributions. His message was America first, often America alone, a policy that prioritized American interests above all else, sometimes at the expense of international cooperation, pushing away old allies and creating a sense of uncertainty and instability in the global order. Putin, meanwhile, sees the EU as a rival, a geopolitical competitor that challenges Russia's sphere of influence, a threat to Russia's influence in Eastern Europe. He views the EU's eastward expansion with suspicion, fearing the erosion of Russian power in the region. He wants the EU weakened, believing that a divided Europe is more vulnerable to Russian influence and manipulation, supporting anti-EU movements and sowing discord within the bloc, seeking to undermine its unity and effectiveness. A fragmented Europe is easier for him to handle, allowing Russia to exert its influence more easily on individual nations. Why this shared animosity? What is the underlying reason for their mutual dislike of the European Union? The EU stands for things they don't like, principles and values that clash with their own political ideologies and ambitions. Countries working together as equals, sharing sovereignty and decision-making power in a collaborative framework, shared rules and democratic values, upholding the rule of law and protecting individual rights and freedoms. For leaders who want to be the undisputed boss, who seek to consolidate power and maintain control, a strong EU is a threat. It represents a challenge to their authority and a constraint on their ability to act unilaterally. It's a powerful bloc that can push back against their agendas, defending its interests and upholding its values on the world stage. And they don't like that one bit. The idea of being held accountable or constrained by international norms is anathema to their leadership style. Both leaders prefer a world where they set the rules, where they can dictate terms and pursue their own interests without interference. Cooperation and unity, not on their agenda. They prioritize national sovereignty and individual power over collective action and shared responsibility. The EU's strength is their challenge. Its very existence poses a threat to their vision of a world dominated by strong, independent nations. And that's why it's in their crosshairs. The European Union represents everything they oppose, and they will continue to target it in their pursuit of global dominance. It's not just big international groups they dislike, their actions extend to a more personal level, impacting the countries that share borders with them. Trump and Putin also pressure their neighbors, often creating an environment of unease and instability. This pressure manifests in various forms, from economic tactics to outright military aggression. They treat borders as suggestions, as lines on a map that can be redrawn or ignored based on their own whims and desires, especially if the neighbor is smaller. The power dynamic becomes skewed, with larger nations leveraging their strength against those less capable of defending themselves. Trump created tension with Canada, a long-standing ally, slapping tariffs on steel and aluminum, disrupting trade relationships and causing economic strain, criticizing NATO spending, questioning the value of alliances, and insulting their prime minister, further straining diplomatic ties. It was less about policy, about genuine disagreements over trade or defense, more about flexing American muscle, asserting dominance on the world stage, and demonstrating the power of the United States. Putin's actions are far more aggressive. He doesn't hesitate to use military force to achieve his objectives. Invading Georgia, a clear violation of international law and a demonstration of Russia's willingness to use force. Annexing Crimea, seizing territory and disregarding the sovereignty of Ukraine, and launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. An act of aggression that has destabilized the region and caused immense suffering. He threatens Poland, Finland, and the Baltic states, constantly reminding them of Russia's military might, keeping them in constant fear. The threat of invasion or interference looms large, shaping their foreign policy decisions. Trump uses economic threats and harsh words, a war of tariffs and diplomatic pressure. Putin uses military force, a much more direct and brutal approach to achieving his goals. But the goal is the same. Regardless of the methods employed, dominate their regions and make neighbors bend to their will, to exert control and influence over the surrounding countries. They believe power gives them the right to dictate terms, to set the rules and expect others to follow them without question. This mindset destabilizes regions, creating an environment of uncertainty and conflict, and makes the world scarier for smaller nations. They live under the constant shadow of larger, more powerful neighbors. It's not just tough talk. It's not just rhetoric or political posturing. It's a dangerous pattern, a consistent and predictable approach to foreign policy that has real-world consequences. Both leaders want to be the big dog in the yard, They crave recognition and respect, and they are willing to use any means necessary to achieve it. And they don't care who gets trampled. The human cost of their actions is often ignored or dismissed. For them, strength means control. The ability to dictate terms, to influence events, and to shape the world according to their own vision. And neighbors are expected to fall in line, to accept their authority and to comply with their demands, or else. The consequences of defiance can be severe, ranging from economic sanctions to military intervention. Telling the truth should be basic for any leader, but for Trump and Putin, truth is flexible. Both have a history of misleading their citizens, telling stories that aren't true, and making easily disproven claims. Trump lied about the 2020 US election, insisting it was stolen despite all evidence. This falsehood damaged faith in American democracy. He made countless other false statements about the economy, COVID, and his opponents. Putin's Russia runs a vast propaganda machine, feeding people a glorified version of his rule. The war in Ukraine is presented as a noble mission, not an invasion. Independent information is suppressed, making truth hard to find. Why do they do it? Because controlling the narrative means controlling the people. Lies are powerful tools for leaders who crave control. If you shape reality, you shape emotions and actions. It's about power, not truth, and it's a dangerous, undemocratic path. When leaders lie, democracy suffers, and so do their people. A free press is essential for democracy, but Trump and Putin despise it. They see journalists as obstacles, not watchdogs. So, they attack, undermine, and try to silence them. Trump constantly attacked news organizations, calling them fake news and enemies of the people. This rhetoric encourages supporters to distrust any information not from him. In Russia, Putin's war on the press is far more brutal. Independent media is dismantled, and new laws criminalize contradicting the government. Journalists face harassment, arrest, and exile. The Kremlin controls almost all information. Whether through verbal attacks or outright censorship, the goal is the same: control the narrative. Without a free press, leaders act with impunity. Truth becomes whatever they say it is, and that's a threat to freedom everywhere. When the press is silenced, democracy is in danger. Trump and Putin know this. That's why they fight so hard to control the story, and why we should care. Trump and Putin are masters at selling a vision of national greatness restored by a strong leader. Trump's "Make America Great Again" promised jobs and toughness and respect. He presented himself as the only one who could fix America. Putin cultivates an image of Russia regaining superpower status, defending Russian interests everywhere. He justifies actions like annexing Crimea as restoring Russia's rightful place. This promise of greatness often comes with expansionist ambitions. Trump mused about keeping Iraq's oil. Putin's territorial ambitions are clear. Both centralize power, demand loyalty, and see democratic checks as obstacles. The strong leader needs a free hand, or so they argue. It's a message that resonates with those feeling left behind, but it often comes at the cost of democracy, and the world should take note. There's an old idea that might makes right, and Trump and Putin seem to live by it. Trump pressured NATO allies, threatened to withdraw support, and imposed tariffs using America's power to dictate terms. It was a transactional, forceful approach to foreign policy. Putin's version is even more blatant, invading neighbors using energy as a weapon and demanding a Russian sphere of influence. Both react badly to criticism. Trump with insults, Putin with retaliation. They believe their power puts them above the rules. This makes the world unpredictable and dangerous. International law and diplomacy take a back seat. Smaller countries are expected to obey, or else. For these leaders, strength is the only currency, and the consequences ripple far beyond their borders. It's a worldview that puts everyone at risk. Strongman leaders surround themselves with fiercely loyal supporters who amplify their message and defend their actions. Trump has high-profile allies like Elon Musk, who use their platforms to echo his rhetoric and legitimize his views. This creates a feedback loop, reinforcing the leader's dominance. Putin's loyalists like Dmitry Medvedev make aggressive statements and reinforce the Kremlin's hardline stance. These echo chambers drown out dissent and intimidate opposition. Both leaders crave respect, personally and for their nations. They react strongly to any perceived slight or challenge. Trump complained about unfair treatment. Putin obsesses over Russia's global status. Demanding deference is central to their style, and it shapes how they rule. Trump has openly admired Putin, calling him smart, strong, and a genius. It's striking to see an American leader praise an authoritarian rival. Perhaps Trump sees in Putin a model of the power he desires. Putin faces little opposition, controls the media, and makes sweeping decisions. Trump often chafed at democratic constraints and has joked about serving more than 2 terms. He wants more power to act decisively, bypassing checks and balances. This mirrors Putin's top-down system. The parallels aren't coincidence, they reflect Trump's genuine affinity for Putin's style. Understanding this Putin envy reveals the kind of leadership Trump aspires to, and what we might expect if we let him. Please press like if you liked the video and subscribe.